It's like the debit card at the gas station. Yeah, who hands a bunch of stuff to the person at the gas station and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want all those things I just handed to you." So the credit card machine's like, "Do you want this? Here's your total. Are you sure you want this? Press this to accept." Like, oh my gosh, I just want to hand them the items, check out, and get out the door. But I keep having to it's the same thing at the post office. I select email receipt, and then it's like, hold on, let me give you a list of disclosures because you're about to receive an email. I chose email. And then it's like, is this your email? I mean, it could be another email, but it could also be the saved email that you use every single time you come to the post office. But just verify, because you have all day.
That's funny. My card is linked to the Colorworld book.
Yeah, so is mine.
But it doesn't ask me all those questions.
Well, it definitely asks me. It's really, I don't have the time. I just want to click and just go.
You know
well, who are you checking out with? Because if it's Chelsea, I never see any of that because she's
okay,
just like,
but
bam, 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 bam.
Sure, but this was not Chelsea today, and so I was like, I'm gonna save myself the trouble, and I'm gonna buy some Forever stamps. Which did those come out of the bag? The Forever stamps? Did you get the Forever stamps out of that?
Bring back?
No.
Yes.
Okay, so I believe Rachel took the whole thing over there.
I think she did.
Okay,
so later we're gonna get those Forever stamps. Anyway, I chose because Chelsea's just like, I'm just gonna type in your email address. Yeah. Like she's so she knows us so well. She doesn't ask any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna go through this thing. Have you ever typed in your email?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the whole day. So I was like, you know what? I'd rather just buy a book of stamps.
Beep. Wait, and then you type it all the way through and you realize it left off an O.
Oh.
Beep, 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 beep.
It's really bad. Beep. I'm not into that. I didn't have time, so I'm like, here, give me Forever stamps. She's like, what kind? I'm like, the ones that will ship my envelope. Just give me disco. Disco? I don't know. I was like, give me, tap dance. I think I got tap dance. Josh, how's it going? I hope you're doing great. This is the Book Talk Tuesday on Lumaworld. All right, so now that everyone knows, there will be crazy spoilers. We usually, as far as let me go ahead and make sure that the Colorworld. Oh, don't we have one more Colorworld Illustrated?
Yes, it's right up here.
Okay, we have one more, and then 3J, man, you put all these things crazy on sale. So let's definitely take that off crazy on sale, so we're not giving away books. Josh, how are you doing? I hope things are going well for you. If anyone does not want spoilers, now would be the time to bow out. And yo, David, what is up? If you do not want spoilers, now would be the time to choose to do something else, and then you can come back and watch this Book Talk Tuesday. We are recording the Book Talk Tuesday. It is going live. It's actually live right now on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. So you can go back on your favorite platform after you've read the book if you want to. I will not take offense to. We're not out of Shadow World, right?
I don't know.
We're about to find out, I guess. Okay.
Or regular.
Okay. Signed copy of Colorworld's in there. Teleworld's in there. Lumaworld's in there. Shadow World's in there. Dream World is in there. And then what about Ezra? I see Ezra. I see Charlotte. I don't see Xavier. Can somebody type in Xavier? X8. Oh, it is there. I lied. Xavier's in there. Okay, so all the books in the series. Can somebody add the Colorworld Illustrated's there? Teleworld Illustrated's there. No, you're fine. Shadow World, Lumaworld. I don't see. Oh yeah. Okay. So all the cool. So one of each book is in the shop. If you want a whole bundle for the whole series, just let me know. I also can make one and only one illustrated bundle of the book series. And then anyone who purchases a book on Book Talk Tuesdays gets a free bookmark with it, whether or not you're a first-time customer or not. All right, so without further ado, we're going to jump in and start talking about the book Lumaworld. Okay, this was originally intended to be the end of the series.
Mm-hmm.
What did you get done accomplished? That's terrible English. Did you accomplish what you originally set out to do, or did you push any of that into the future? Yo, Tanzania, that's awesome. Thanks for joining us from Tanzania.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think I think I put everything in there that I had intended to put in there.
So was there one like thing that you left undone?
Well, I added a few things to like sort of create the mystery for the next book.
Okay.
But when you read Lumaworld, I think you do get a little bit of closure at the end of it. But then if you read the epilogue, then you're like, okay, this is.
So did you really wrapped it up nicely, and then you
Yes.
opened up a new can of worms in
Yeah.
the epilogue?
Yeah.
Okay. This book, Cancer, is a very logical end to what's been going on. We learned that life forces essentially get messed up in the process of hypnotouch along the way, right? And that Louise's goal, intentions really does so first of all, does she know? Is she choosing, like we learn that they go through filing cabinets and they find out that, man, it has gone really poorly for anybody that's received hypnotouch.
Yeah.
Does Louise know what she's doing?
Oh, yeah.
And she just considers it the cost of doing business?
Well, she considers it the cost of progress.
Okay. Is this like a Slytherin kind of thing where she believes that like only primes are the only real humans?
No, she's basically, so she's kind of got a vendetta against, well, the group that you meet for.
Oh, okay, right. We can
You
do
don't
book
make them
3
in book
spoilers, but book 4 spoilers we were gonna avoid until next week.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So she has issues with the large organization. Now, yo, what's up, Fiore? Welcome in, my dude. Welcome in. Book Talk Tuesday again, Fiore. This time we're doing book 3 in the Colorworld series. Okay, so she knows who have we even said their name in books 1 through 3?
No.
Like, we have no idea. Okay, so is that what allowed you to move past the first 3 books in the series?
Yeah. There's a few mysteries in book 3 that you don't really have an explanation for. One of those is Gabe apparently seems to have an ability that was there before the hypnotouch, before he had any manipulation done. We don't know where that came from.
So is Wendy under the impression that all abilities have to... No, she couldn't be, right? Because she had an
No.
ability.
No, you get hinted at in book 1 that there are people that do have abilities that are not really explained. So that's definitely something that they're aware of. And, you may or may not be curious about where those abilities come from. But that gets explained later. Also, why is Louise pushing this thing? Because it seems like there's not a lot of return on the risk. So, up until this point, people have pretty low-key abilities. They're not really, with the exception of Kaylin, it doesn't seem like mind-blowing or anything. And you're kind of like, why is Louise so dedicated to this cause of creating these sort of subpar superhumans?
Okay. Kaylin, welcome in. It does make, like, what you're pointing out makes sense. So for those who missed Book Talk Tuesday, the past couple of weeks where we did Colorworld and Teleworld, when we meet Louise, she's running this compound. It's kind of, it's a ton like Xavier's School for the Gifted, and she has people that can do these things, but she believes that they can do more. She's trying to unlock that they can do more. Like, what gives her any or is Carl the only evidence that she has that there are greater abilities out there?
You mean for Louise?
For Louise.
Oh, Louise knows everything, including things that aren't in book 3.
Wait.
So you keep asking me questions about what Louise knows.
Okay.
But
you can keep dodging
there are
me.
lots of things that Louise knows that you find out in book. You really find out Louise's true motives, like the reason, in later books.
Okay.
So,
but she doesn't. When you say she knows everything, she doesn't know Kaylin, right? Kaylin has managed to keep her ability from Louise until Teleworld.
Trying to think if she does or not. I don't recall. I think she has.
That Kaylin's been successfully hiding her ability, her true power level.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it has to be Carl then. In terms of what we know in books 1 through 3. Okay. There's a sly smile there. All right. So she has some unknown motivation for nurturing these mediocre powers. What is up?
Hi.
Super Dimension, welcome in. And then Candace, welcome in. Welcome back. Okay. She's maniacally driven for something that seems irrational. Does our team of heroes, Kaylin, Wendy, Gabe, it has to seem strange, right? Or are they kind of on to Louise that they know that she knows more than she's letting on?
No, they just pretty much think she's a psychopath.
Okay.
I mean, they're like, this chick's bad. She's bad.
So that's all they need. They're like, she's killing people.
She's clearly obsessed with this idea of
True.
superhuman abilities.
Okay.
Right? So whether they think she's searching for something greater, or whether she knows there's something greater, it's irrelevant. They just know she's bad.
She needs to be, because the blood's on her hands. Mm-hmm. The filing cabinet reveals that person after person that has gone in and done this thing or participated.
Yeah, but the real person implicated in those files is Carl.
Okay.
So, he's kind of the one that they figure out is doing all of this. Louise isn't mentioned. Louise doesn't really have.
But the files are in her office.
Louise doesn't have any abilities. That's the crazy part, right? It's kind of like Voldemort hates Muggles, but he's Muggle-born. Like.
Oh, Voldemort, your tragic past.
You like that?
Yeah. What a shame that the people who lack are the people, the pure blood.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Hitler was part Jew.
I think that is part of his story. I think it's authentically part. Well, thank you so much, Jackie. Welcome back, by the way. It's good to see you. Yovel is super adorable, and he is chowing down on an orange. If you are a parent, you've never seen this thing before. It's like a ring of power, like a Green Lantern ring, but with a netted mesh in there, and then you can put various watermelon, orange, any sort of fibrous fruit in there that has a ton of juice, and the kid can just go to town on that. Sounds like Louise did nothing. Oh yeah. I mean, Fiore, definitely Louise thinks that what she's doing, or at least how she's doing.
She thinks she's doing the right thing. She thinks that she is combating a force more evil than herself.
So she's aware that she may lack upstanding moral character, but she believes that the means to an end.
Yeah.
She thinks that she has enough justification in how and why she's doing. She kind of, it's like somebody who sees the problem and they feel like they have the solution.
Or that they're willing to do what other people won't do.
Right. So Luis is saying the solution's here, but all the rest of you are only willing to do just like here, but we need to get to here.
Yeah,
so I'll take one for the team.
She's not wrong.
What?
She's not wrong in that respect. There's a
what?
No, I mean, like, when you're talking about progress, it's very true that progress is almost always pushed forward by somebody who's willing to do things that other people aren't, and a lot of times treads that line between, what's moral and what's not. So, for instance, I don't even remember the guy's name, but the guy who basically, developed a breakthrough in leukemia, being able to treat leukemia, is both loved and hated. I mean, he put kids through some pretty horrific
Mm.
treatments in order to develop
The
thing
currently
that
acceptable.
the thing that actually really works now. He's responsible for that, but a number of kids had to suffer. Was that moral and ethical at the time? We would say no. When we look back, it's hard for us to then say, well, I wish that had never been, when you have so many people who were saved. So
That's a heck of a point.
it's a really good illustration, and I think it's Malcolm Gladwell. I'm just trying to remember which book it is of his that he talks about. Basically, outliers, people who are willing to do what other people aren't, and how that results in progress. It can put your mind in a little bit of a ethical.
In some knickers.
twist.
You're gonna
Yeah.
get your knickers in a twist.
Yeah.
So did you and you had already read that. Did that play into your development?
No, I hadn't read that. I wrote this a long time ago. I read that book from Malcolm Gladwell.
So were you like, whoo?
No, I wouldn't say necessarily that Louise. Louise never. She did accomplish some things, but she didn't accomplish enough. She didn't develop the treatment for hypnotouch. She didn't figure out. But could she have? I don't know. I mean, that's the question you have to ask. That sometimes people do things that are not moral, legal, and ethical that don't accomplish. You never know what's going to work.
So do you get to go back and have revisionist history after the fact? Like, at what point do we get to declare whether or not the right thing was done? Or, like,
I don't know that we can.
History is written by the victors.
True. I don't know that we can. Oh, I was like, is that in the shot?
Is it? It should be, right?
It is.
Okay, cool. I was like, I don't know if I can hold that book for the entire
It's
2
not
hours.
on Pop Shop Shop.
Oh.
Pop Shop Shop.
Shop
The shot on Pop Shop.
Shop at a pop-up. I think that book is finally like it's large enough to stand on its own. Oh, it's not on Pop Shop. It's only on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have to get another copy of the book. It's for Pop Shop. And then Diane, welcome in. Doing. Oh no, Super Dimension. We were bummed to hear that. Thanks for coming, and hopefully this makes your day a little better. We'll be thinking about you. Sad to hear the news of your grandmother, but thanks for coming in and hanging with us.
Yeah.
Okay, so how much of this really complicated push and pull did you personally like? Where does Louise come from? How soon did you know who she was? Did you start with Louise and Wendy? Like, how does that process work?
I didn't know who Louise was until probably book 5.
Well, clearly you knew who she was in book 1.
I didn't know her history. I didn't know where she came from, how she got here. I just knew what she was after then. I didn't know why she was after it, or
So you had the
I had
same.
the same view as Wendy.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. You have the same understanding as Wendy does in book 1.
Yeah.
So you personally don't know until book 5 the depth of Louise's motivation.
Correct.
Okay. What? Well, how do you get the book 1 understanding of?
Well, it's pretty simple. I mean, Louise, she wants Wendy. She knows Wendy's capable of this Colorworld site, and she
knows she can see things.
Oh yeah, because she knows her father. Carl.
Oh, gotcha.
So she's like, when they've been after Wendy, and we find out that Wendy's
she knows
mom
because Carl knows.
Was on the run, that she was trying to stay away from people who were after her for her ability. So, yeah.
Sad Boy Breakers, welcome in. Nick, welcome in.
So Louise definitely knew what Wendy
because
knew what Wendy was capable of before Wendy knew what she was capable of.
Right, because she was working with Carl to. Oh man, it's gonna. Let's see. Ooh, don't grab the book, buddies. Don't grab the book. Let me get his hands. Okay, so. But so for instance, Kaylin, right? You said that you didn't know like really that Kaylin was going to be important until after you had completely finished book 1, and in one of the drafts she saves Gabe and Wendy. So how, like, at what point do you decide? Again, did you start with Luis and Wendy and like move towards the middle? Like how, where does Luis come from in the process of creating Colorworld?
Well, she's just needed a bad guy.
So you sat down to write this story of Colorworld, and you're like, I need a bad. So what made you go Luis instead of Louis? Like
That's too many male.
okay. So you're like, I need a
bad guys.
woman bent on.
And females, I think, are way more like. I needed it to be like, is she bad or is she good? I
Okay.
feel like that's easier to write with a female.
Dudes are just so obvious.
Yeah, it's like you're a selfish SOB.
You're a terrible person.
Yeah, you know, Louise is kind of like, I'm an old grandmother hippie who thinks.
Where did I put the Colorworld t-shirt? That is a good. Oh, right there. Yes, we will show off Oliver the Colorworld t-shirt. Give Rachel just a sec to unfold. And these are, in a way, these are vintage. They've never been worn, but they are from the original Kickstarter. And I remembered I was going around church. I was interviewing people, kind of like man on the street. And I was like, hey, would you be interested in crowdfunding? Do you know what that is?
What's crowdfunding? Like,
and she said, what's
crowdfunding?
Crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding?
We lived in North Dakota. I don't know why she was thinking of the ocean, but she heard crab funding.
Yeah. So we had to put it on the shirt because it was just too funny.
Yeah. So making Colorworld happen through crab funding. And then we put the Kickstarter logo there so that anyone who knew what Kickstarter was. So yes. That is, man, talk about the beginning. That is the very, very beginning.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nick. The bubble has always been, man. I should have more props here, but I have a baby. That's one prop.
He's probably ready for a nap, just so you know.
So, which means
grab him up and throw him in the swing.
Okay.
Just like last time.
Okay. So give me a sec. I'm gonna have Rachel wrap up. He's done. So we're gonna have Rachel wrap him up in a burrito, and then I will run him over to the swing, and then we will.
It's just an awkward time.
5 o'clock Central is. Oh man! All right, our prop, our prop. The cover of each book are soap bubbles, and so that what you saw on the Colorworld shirt is the very first original soap bubble. The coolest part about the cover of the book, sure, if you want, or do you want me to do it?
Sure.
Here, you can show off, Rachel, talk about Richard.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Man.
All right. So before I ever, or maybe it's while I was writing the books, I don't know how I came across. I wish I could remember how I came across this guy, but I literally can't even think about. It's like not. I've tried to remember over the years. Like how did I ever come upon this as the cover? I just know that I came across this artist, this photographer, Richard Heeks, who was known for, has been published because of his pictures of soap bubbles popping. So he'll capture them in the middle of popping. The cover of book 5 has that bubble popping. And then he was also, I remember seeing this picture, well, not this exact one, but this idea of we got a Corona basically reflecting off of the edge of the soap bubble. So I saw him and I was like, that picture's amazing. I have to have that. That's like, I have to have that. And so whatever my process was, like I said, I can't remember. I was like, I commissioned him. I said, hey, can you, I have a book and I really want to use a soap bubble image for my book. Would you be willing to do that? And I told him that I wanted a tree reflected in the bubble. So he ran around a park I don't know how many, 20 hours, I think he told me it took him, like over time, like different days to capture the reflection in the center. And then he hid himself, like he didn't want to be in the reflection. So he's hidden in the black part. I don't even know how he did it. It's crazy. So the bubble itself is completely unedited. I mean, we removed the background, but the bubbles, we work really hard. My cover designer does, to make sure that the photograph itself is preserved as he took it. So same thing with this one, the way it looks like a planet with like the sun coming around the edge. I mean, it's really astounding. His work is incredible. And so each of the books in the series has his work on it. His name is Richard Heeks. I think if you were to Google Richard Heeks soap bubble photographs, you would find it. And he's just really incredible. I don't think he does soap bubbles as often anymore. I feel like he thinks he's kind of exhausted that. He does like macros of like insect eyes and things like that. So he's really great. And I've worked with him ever since I published my first book. So every year I'm like, hey, I need a picture. And sometimes I'll ask him for something in particular, like I need a bubble in this situation, or I need this part of the bubble. But he always delivers. Sometimes he has to go out and take them. Sometimes he's already got it. He's got thousands of photos that he'll be like, I think I have something like that. And then he'll send me a bunch of options. So the Waterworld series is actually cool because all of those photos are close-ups of
missing one.
yeah, I know. I'm missing Charlotte. Yeah, these ones are all, the bubble part is actually a close-up, like literally a close-up of a bubble film. Like if you were to zoom in on the film of a bubble, that's what it looks like. It's basically microscopic photograph. Same thing with this one. So all of this close-up of a soap bubble, all of these. So he just keeps delivering. It's like anytime I think like, oh, I'm gonna have to recycle and do something new, or do the same thing that I've done but do it differently, he always has something new. So he's amazing.
Charmaine, welcome in. How's it going, Charmaine? All right. So you sit down. You're writing the story of Wendy.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, this is a basic story. Every story needs a hero and a villain. This chick's going to be my villain. Guys are too easy. I need somebody more complicated that might possibly have people be able to agree with her or go along with her.
Or just wonder. Really what I wanted is to wonder, is she hurting or helping? Like, is she good or is she not? There are points in Colorworld where it seems like she's really trying to help. But really she's just trying to exploit the whole time.
Did you ever believe that? I never believed for a second that she wanted anything other than something nefarious.
No, but Wendy didn't necessarily. I mean, I don't know that I ever felt that way, but I know that Wendy did. That Wendy kind of struggles a little bit with whether Louise can be trusted, because, you know, she's got this crazy ability. She kills people when she touches them, and she's desperate for help. So when you're desperate for help, you'll almost overlook everything just if you think that it's your only option. And she thought Louise was her only option. So she made me like this. She can undo it, right?
So I don't know that Louise might have an idea of justice, but I don't know that any of the other characters in the series have a sense of justice. I think that Wendy just really wants more than anything not to kill people when she touches them. Gabe, more than anything, just wants to marry Wendy and make her happy forever and ever. Kaylin wants to be loved. She was abandoned by her father to sign up for something that she didn't sign up for. You know, her dad thinks
It
that,
was used.
yeah. Ezra just wants his sister to be happy. I don't know. What is Ezra's motivation?
Well, you kind of find that out. I mean, he's a teenager.
Right.
So teenagers' motivation is pretty much self-centered.
So he just wants to get a hot girl.
Probably, but I mean, he cares about Wendy. That's pretty clear.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
Usually teenagers don't have much direction. That they're kind of just like going with whatever. Like there are very few like highly motivated teenagers who like know what they're gonna do. You know, it's very hard for them to see past their nose. And Ezra's kind of like a can't see past his nose kind of guy, especially in the beginning. It's not really until his book that he gets to really grow up a lot. So
his book is marvelous. We will get to his book.
I love
His book is of volume 6. It's the first volume of Waterworld. Yeah, each of the characters that are featured in Waterworld get their day in the sun. So Fiore, in terms of
Justice really comes into play, I would say,
Andre,
book 5. That really becomes a question. Is if you're the only person that knows, the only person that can do something about it, are you obligated to do something? And should you do something, especially if it involves hurting people?
It's the Spider-Man question.
Yeah, but then also, what does that justice look like? If you are the meter of justice, what is that justice allowed to look like? Right? I mean, just think about book 5. What happens in book 5? Yeah. Good question in there.
I don't know that I spend. Do you spend any time thinking about justice? It's, to me, in my personal life, it's kind of a concept that I don't have a lot of room in my personal life for justice.
Maybe I probably used to feel a little bit like, oh, I wish that person would get there.
Comeuppance?
You know, I wish karma would come and handle them.
Slap
you
a
know?
hoe.
Like the pain that this person has caused me, like they really deserve this or that thing. But I don't know that I have ever spent a ton of time on it, and certainly not recently at all.
Yeah, I don't know that I have much room in my life for what I have a lot of stuff I gotta do.
Like I was saying in book 4, I think there really is the question, and I still don't really know what the right answer to the question is for Wendy in book 5. So
4 or 5?
5.
Okay.
In book 5.
Okay.
We're talking about 3, so except you're holding.
Well, because one is right. Or sorry. Oh my gosh. One was in my. Well, now the bubble's gone. Oh, now you took down my stand. All right. So we can put the bubble up here for those folks that are on this book. It doesn't stand on its own.
So we're talking about this one.
We're talking about Lumaworld.
So if you're
welcome
you
in,
can
Devin.
actually jump
Welcome in, Mary.
If you're interested in reading about justice, you can actually jump into the series at book 5.
Oh,
and
yeah.
not be lost.
Oh man, where's my copy of 5? Give me a sec. Give me a sec to pull out a. So Star Wars, right? Rachel and I talked, and we're like, what do we do? This series was meant to be picked up with book 1 and kind of read along the way, Harry Potter style. You know, Deathly Hallows is a long way from the Sorcerer's Stone. It is light years beyond. The characters are older. The themes are bigger, more dramatic. And so Colorworld was written in a way that as the reader got older, the series would find them where they're at in their life. And as they dealt with new things, the book would present new topics and new characters and new situations. But then we got so deep into the series in 5, and it was... I need to find 5. So do you remember what year 5 came out?
Let's see. 2013, 2014, 2015,
2018, right?
2017. It would be 2017 because this is
5 years
end
later,
of 13, end of 14.
Oh, we put 1 and 2 out.
Oh
back to
yeah,
back.
because number 2 was the very next year.
Okay.
It'll say
On the inside.
yeah, on the copyright page. 2016.
Oh, jeez. All right. So a quick 3 years. But you have to understand from our perspective, 3 years later was like a lifetime because we lived in an RV with 4 children for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so we grew up just like Wendy did in a hurry. So this book, we did it like Star Wars, so that if you wanted to, you could start with book 5. I mean, just look at the sheer girth. Look at this. It's a monster. It's a real book. That's a book reader's book.
It's the maximum number of pages that Amazon.
That Amazon would allow.
I actually had to cut out. I had to cut it down like about, I don't know, I think probably 20 pages. I had to figure out how to.
That's funny.
fit
I
so-
remember that.
Yeah, like so I would have.
Are the
liked-
margins different?
I don't know that they're different. No, they're not different. Margins are the same. I think I did things like you can actually decrease the space between lines
I think
just
that,
a hair, and if you do that over the entire book, it gets rid of.
I think that, but look how the bottom comes down. More.
Well, that just depends on how they cut it. Sometimes it's down at the bottom, sometimes it's not.
All right.
Amazon's not very consistent. I knew what I had to
Change
do
the
is.
font size on
have
periods
that.
and save like 3 or 4 pages too.
Well, I didn't adjust the font size. I do know that I looked to see what chapters kind of ended. Like what's a chapter that?
I don't know. I remember
So like
thinking
this,
this
right?
though.
The chapter ends in the middle of the page. There's no way I can make it smaller so that it will fit onto this page. But if a chapter ended and there was only a few lines on a page, I would shrink the margin, not the margin space, between line space in the entire chapter such that you wouldn't notice and it would suck it up into the previous page. So that would give me a whole page. So I had to do things like that. I think I also adjusted, let's see. Oh, here's another change. So where the chapter starts is higher up than in other books where it starts lower down the page. So just a little, I decided to do just I think it's 828 pages is the maximum that Amazon will allow. So I had to shrink it down so that it would be 828 pages.
Fiore book 6. So it's not Dark World, it's Water World in book 6, and there are 6 volumes of book 6.
Ezra right here.
Did you?
Yep, here's Ezra.
Oh, hey!
And then here's the new one.
Yay, the new one. Oh, you showed it off. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, just for reference, see, we found out how to beat you, Amazon. We found out how to beat you. So there's 6 volumes. 6 volumes in book 6. 1 through 4. Golly, those are some good-looking spines, right? Those are some good-looking
You know,
spines.
I'm pretty partial to my covers, I have to say.
You definitely can judge a book by its cover. People definitely do, and so we spent time, energy, love, money on the covers for sure. So that's how book 6 went. Fiore is we simply just went all in. Rachel was having a hard time figuring out how to edit, and so I was like, people like more. If there's one thing that I learned from Harry Potter, I learned a lot of things because I basically have my whole life. I've been trying to get Rachel to take out J.K. Rowling. Is that right?
J.K. Rowling.
All right. I finally said her name right after.
Just think growling but without the G.
I just think second place is the first loser. That's what I think. And I think J.K. Rowling. She will be second place. She will. We will,
It'd be so funny if she just joins the stream.
she can come on in. She's our rival. She doesn't know it because our book series is so much
I
smaller.
think she's cool. I mean,
she's like
she has a
under
pretty
fire right
amazing
now.
story. She has an amazing story. So, I mean, amazing story, but then also amazing life story. So I meant life story, but
Yeah,
Harry
right
Potter's
up
cool
until
too.
she ended Harry Potter, tried to go write something else. Nobody cared, and then made a whole bunch of remarks about people that aren't like her. I'm coming for you. Number 1, we're the Endeavor of this.
No.
I'm not going to call J.K. Rowling an All Might, though.
She is. She's just like All Might, old, washed up, with no power left to fight. Let's go, Endeavor, coming for you.
Yeah, except without the eugenics tilt that Endeavor
Oh,
has.
I mean, look, Endeavor's highly problematic. Who's the number 3 hero? We can be like the number 3 hero.
Is it Best Genius?
Genius. Ooh, that
Is
did.
it really?
Who's 4? That
Gang Orca's number 8, right?
Hawks, maybe?
Hawks?
No, the Hawks is not. No.
I'm totally down to be Gang Orca. A lot of people love Gang Orca. Very, very much loved side
Hi,
character.
Sarah.
Not number 2.
Yay, Sarah! What's up? Hawks is number 2. People love Hawks. Hawks is
All
like
right,
a double agent too.
Got it.
All right, we're gonna take her down. She's All Might. She was King of the Hill. She's done. She's off the hill, deflated, just right. She's over the hill. Oh gosh, where's my? So much for my ability to locate something funny.
They're small mice.
That's what I was looking for. You see, there we go. There's J.K. Rowling. That's what this is. This is J.K. Rowling. Okay, there she is.
I'm gonna have to answer for this on Good Morning America one day.
Yes, yes, yes.
They're gonna be like, we saw this stream.
We saw this stream.
where you talked about J.K. Rowling.
See, this is the old J.K. Rowling. This is
And I'm
after.
gonna say, bring my husband on stage.
This is after J.K. Rowling, right? Book 7. J.K. Rowling after the Cursed Child. After they forced her, she's like, "I'm fine. I'm not putting out another book. I'll make a play. I'll make a play." See, this is J.K. Rowling. All right, Colorworld's gonna be number 1. Oh, and welcome in Nicole just in time. It's for the good stuff. All right. I would imagine that your dad's personal struggle with cancer loomed huge when you read. Did you know, or is cancer just such a useful disease as a literary element that you're?
Well, it had to be a particular kind of disease. So, in Lumaworld, we learned that it's the particular kind of diseases that develop are autoimmune disorders, most especially.
Okay.
So those are the things that people are developing as a result of this energy manipulation.
Cancer's an autoimmune
Yeah.
because it triggers the body to kill itself,
Mhm.
right? Because uncontrolled cell growth.
So self,
Right. Yeah.
right?
It has an
Attacking yourself.
immune response. So for those that are cancer, essentially is uncontrolled cell growth, to which the body attempts to fight, to which weakens your, you kill yourself. Yep. And that's
And cancer already, already like doesn't really have a terrific cure. Like there's not really a
No.
cure per se. There's like
Almost
we're gonna try
die.
this thing,
Yeah.
we're gonna try that thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna kill off part
Yep.
of your body.
Yep.
In hopes that it'll also kill off the bad stuff, but it's also going to kill you at the same time.
can't go too far, or you're gonna die from
Yeah.
the treatment instead of the cancer.
And so I knew that was going to be a thing, but I chose Gabe to dying of the same cancer that my dad died from.
Okay.
Small cell lung carcinoma. So I did that because I did have experience with it and I wanted to make sure that I was accurate. However, I read like so many blogs, like personal blogs, people who blogged through their cancer journey to know like, because my dad's wasn't the only one.
Right.
Everybody goes through it a little bit differently. So to me, that was the biggest resource, was learning about what did the day-to-day life look like in somebody who has small cell lung carcinoma. And then the other thing I did was I researched the heck out of cancer treatments, like side effects. What do they treat? What do they kill? What do they not kill? What are the chances? Like how often? When would it be given? Is it a first defense drug? So I have like a notebook full of cancer drug. Yeah.
And then you did the same sort of thing with diabetes, right? With Wendy, I remember Nancy Sauter I just remember that conversation between you and her, and she was happy to share what the life of a diabetic looked like and what would be.
Hers is a little different because Nancy didn't have, she did not have juvenile diabetes. She had,
Stage 2.
Yeah, she had type 2 diabetes, and so hers was quite a bit different than Wendy's. I mean, I know that I asked her about it, but as far as like research, I don't think I had to do quite nearly as much research on
Diabetes.
I did do a lot of research on it, but as far as like personal experience, I knew that Wendy's experience was going to be very different from your typical diabetic, so it wasn't as important for it to be so accurate.
Is her diabetes caused by her ability? Are they linked?
Yes.
Okay.
They're linked. Yeah. I'm trying to think.
I know.
So yeah, it is in Lumaworld that you find out that Carl basically gave her diabetes so that he would have something to work with in order to, because he was afraid that she didn't have the sight and she wasn't demonstrating that she had the sight. And in order to ensure that she had the sight and that she could be a channel, he gave her diabetes so that she could then be worked on later on in life to enhance her ability. So
Dastardly Carl.
I guess
Welcome
he,
in,
I guess
Priscilla.
he figured juvenile diabetes was the best possible.
Well, it's certainly something he could get away with.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Nobody was going to question.
Well, and she could still live a fairly
Yeah.
fulfilling life while still having juvenile diabetes.
As long as she manages it.
Yeah.
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 Heartless Aquarius, welcome in. Welcome in. How tough was it it is hell on wheels to read. You hear a lot of people talk about the heartache of book 3 and how it's really almost an abrupt, like the books 1 and 2 look so, there's action, there's romance, there's mystery, there's intrigue, the villain, but then you get to book 3 and it's really different change of pace.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, I really wanted it to bring them together, Gabe and Wendy. And, I wanted Wendy to really be humbled and Gabe too,
That Gabe guy, so proud.
Yeah. I mean, I love Lumaworld. I love the love in Lumaworld. Like, I loved writing those scenes of just the tenderness between Gabe and Wendy and how he treats her. And, first it was, he's going to die. And, she's sad and she has to come to terms with that. But then it turns out he's okay and now she's going to die. And like, how does he deal with that? And so there's this up and down of like, who's actually going to live without who, right? And I just remember like just the scenes where there's this one scene where Wendy asks Gabe, like, why do you love me? Like, why do you? Why did you choose me out of everybody? And he said, well, because you picked me. And that was really personal for me because I feel like that's kind of our relationship.
Oh, it's 100%.
So, for Wendy to hear that from him, it was really like hearing that from you. And so I get to relive that, every time I read that part, where she's just sort of astounded by how much he loves her. Like she just can't grasp that, can't figure out why. And she doesn't want to die not knowing. And so those scenes, I feel like, it's fun to write the more like playful scenes and the scenes where things are getting hot and heavy, but the ones that really like stick are the ones where you kind of get this sense of how much these two people love each other. Like to me, that was really solidified Gabe and Wendy like as these people work well together. These people belong together. That's what Lumaworld is to me, is like proving that Gabe and Wendy like belong together. And that not only are they in love, but they also like they go through this fight together and they come out of it. So up until then, they haven't really had that sort of like combine forces and fight this thing. It's always been like, oh, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to leave you. Like, now they're in it and we get to see them be in it. And you never get to see that in a book. I loved it. I loved writing Lumaworld for that reason.
Because you usually, all you get from a love story is like up and two, and then they fall in love.
Like we just prolong how long it takes these characters to get together. It's like the whole series, and the characters are together, and then finally at the end, they're together, and you're like, great.
Well, it's like Miraculous Ladybug. Like that's the big critique of Miraculous Ladybug is like, just put Adrian and Marionette together. Like, let's move on.
They're like 14. Like, come on, man.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yes.
What the fan,
But seriously, when I watch Ladybug and Cat, I'm like, she's like, oh, I'm in love with Adrian. I'm like, you're 14.
Well,
He's cute.
I'm more like, how many seasons can you not know that guy with the one black mask is still Adrian? There's not a whole lot to hide. Same thing
Yeah,
with
like,
her.
and that's the thing too. It's like if she really loved him,
She would know that's
she would
him.
know that's him.
She would never be deceived.
Exactly.
Super
And
unrealistic.
vice versa.
Yeah.
You know,
How does he not
Adrian
know?
would know. He's in love with Ladybug, but he would know.
It's just
that Ladybug
marionette and
is in love with him.
spandex. Duh.
Come on, man.
Duh. She never wore yoga pants. There has to be a yoga pant episode. It'd be like, wait,
A masquerade ball.
that's Ladybug. Yeah, a masquerade ball.
They should
Oh,
have that.
they should have that episode. I should flip that to Bryce. Bryce, do you know anyone at Zag that
Hey,
can write
Aaron.
this? I waved. Yeah, sorry, Aaron. I waved. Rachel's in the middle of the story, but welcome in. Okay. You had said earlier, either last week or the week before on Book Talk Tuesday, that everybody in your head is on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Did you still originally thinking that this was going to be the end? Was Wendy ever on the chopping block?
No,
Okay.
she's the main character.
All right. So
We can't do
no, we're not doing the.
that. She was never gonna die.
Okay.
I was worried for a second because
For Wendy or Gabe?
okay, for Wendy, because like by all counts, she was gonna die. I really believe that she was gonna die. And I'm like, she can't die.
She can't
How do
die.
I get out of
I've
this?
seen Divergent. It goes horribly. The fan base revolts. It can't happen.
Right. Okay. So here's the scene. Right. She can see the color world. She can see the life forces. Kaylin can move the life forces, and Gabe can count the life forces. And all three of those things are needed in order to fix the life force. So, but when you fix somebody, they lose their ability. Okay. So think about like order. Who's going to lose their ability for? Who do we fix of these three?
Oh man.
You know, like that was the question. And the bottom line is you can't do anything if you can't see. So that means Wendy had to be last. And Gabe was the least necessary because he could already count ahead of time. If they need to, they can count one at a time. Right? So Gabe gets saved first. And then we got Kaylin. And so really, we're like, well, she can start to try to save Kaylin, but is she going to be able to fully save her before she loses her ability?
Kaylin or Wendy?
Kaylin. So it comes down to Kaylin and Wendy, right? Gabe's already been saved.
Right.
Kaylin and Wendy. Kaylin has to move the life force to be able to fix it. And Wendy has to be able to see it. Kaylin can't see it without Wendy because Wendy's a channel. So there's no way to try to fix Wendy because Kaylin's going to be fixed first.
This
and
makes
she's
me
gonna
want to
lose her
go
ability.
back and read that.
Well, you should.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
It's an important detail that this is like how the book is progressing. Like there's a whole like
Yeah.
several chapters in
Yeah.
there where Wendy's just like, I'm
Who-
tired of these people
gets
being
to die?
so negative.
Right.
And also Kaylin like refuses to let Wendy fix her for a while. She's like, no, you need to at least try to fix yourself. Don't worry about me. I'm not even sick yet. Right. So
next.
Yeah. So Wendy's like really upset about this. And finally Kaylin like comes around and is like, okay, fine. You can fix me. I realize that, you know, you're gonna die, so you might as well have the thing that you want before you die. So
You're dead already.
yeah,
So
and
let's
it's
give you what you want. You
and,
whiny
and
butt.
at the very end, you know, she's trying to fix Kaylin, and she's so mad that she can't just save Kaylin. That she spent all this time saving all these other people, and she just wants to fix Kaylin. She just wants to save her, and she says a prayer. Essentially, she's like, if there's a God, show me how to do this. I don't know how to do this. And she gets her answer, and she does it, and she saves Kaylin. And right as soon as she saves Kaylin, she goes into cardiac arrest, and we're like, "Ooh, is she gonna live?" Right? So then the end part of the book is my other favorite part, the very end, where you find out what happened while Wendy was unconscious. Yeah, Gabe was on a rampage because he needs to wake her up, and he's like, "We know how to do this now. You have to be conscious." And you know, she goes on life support, and Gabe's gonna go like mess up his life force again so he can get in there and like fix her because he knows how to do it, and you know, and everybody's trying to stop him. And
Gabe's
he's
the real
just-
deal, man.
He is not gonna be stopped because he's like, we know how to do this now. You're not dying.
Gabe is the real deal. You don't play around.
Yeah, and before he's going to, basically mess up his life force, Robert's like, comes down on him. He's like, Wendy wouldn't want this. Stop it. And then like he ends up reaching her in a different way. He ends up kind of reaching her in her subconscious and getting her to, realize what's going on.
Man,
So
I definitely want to go back, and thank heavens this is also on an audiobook for those of you who work out or have a long drive, whatever it is, if you're taking a vacation. The first 3 books I'm in the process of right now finding some time to schedule Brittany Karbowski and David Wall. That's who I'll be directing. Todd is going to handle Todd and Jeremy. I'm going to handle David and Brittany. And then probably the new person, we're going to hold, there's essentially an audition contest going on right now until I think March 17th. You can audition to have a role in book 4 in Shadow World. I need to make absolutely sure. I need to go back and look at the notes and look at the highlights to see if there's any other additional characters that we're going to give a voice to. I know that when we did book 1.
yeah, I mean, if we have good success with this, I would love to have other voices do different characters. I mean,
Well, you need to give me notes now because I have a whole Rolodex of. I know Chris Waycamp really wants to be in the Color World. I am toying so hard with Eric Bale being Andre. Eric is just such a terrific, sinister villain that, and Andre seems like a whiner like Shigaraki.
yeah, I think Chris Waycamp as Horatio. Could be manly,
Oh,
right? Are we gonna do?
we're gonna do either Sabat, Chris Sabat, or
yeah, true. He's got that
or Patrick Seitz.
booming. Oh, Patrick, right?
I know, right?
Yes.
I know.
Patrick.
I love.
Yes.
And he said
I love Patrick.
Patrick is the only actor to ever say no. Like, I'm not going to audition. I don't want anything to do with this. And then I finally met him years later. And I was, he saw that we had Fairy Tale license and had Loxus on stuff and Endeavor. And I asked him if he wanted stuff for his table. And he's like, oh my gosh, yes. I would love officially licensed stuff. And then at the end of that convention, I was like, Patrick, I just got to ask you, bro. Why did you say no? Like, why didn't you want to audition? Like, you're just not interested. Audiobooks aren't your thing. And he's like, no, Brad, you have to understand. I directed Fire Emblem 3 Houses for 7 months straight. Like, that was it. That was my only project. It was all day, every day, morning, noon, and night, long sessions, working across multiple coasts and different time zones. He's like, I couldn't. I just literally could not. And he's like, please, please ask me at some future point, and I would love to. I'd be happy to work on the Colorworld audiobook series. So it was, but in the beginning I was like, oh, it's just like Loxus. What a jerk face. Patrick is just as big a jerk as Loxus is. But it turned out that no, he just really directed one single project that took up so much time that he literally couldn't entertain any other projects.
Favorite book?
Yeah, there you go. There's it's definitely my favorite book is the second one. So
First book in the series. Go pick it up.
as soon as the second here we go. My favorite book in the series. This is the thing that got me to literally sell the house. We sold the house in North Dakota. We did a Kickstarter. We raised $20,000 and we rode around in an RV for a year and a half. I dropped Rachel and Cachette off in North Carolina, and then I took the other 3 for a few more months.
Yeah.
And yeah, I told the world I was going to make Rachel famous. This is the greatest book I ever read, and I couldn't believe I was sleeping next to this person who wrote the Colorworld book series, and so I literally dedicated my life to telling this story. And yeah. There's a lot of Rachel and Brad and Gabe and Wendy. Taran, welcome in. Jose, welcome in. 41 Big K, welcome in. Yeah, Chris is great. Aaron, what did I say?
41 Big K.
Oh.
5 or 415.
41.5 Big K or 415. Tomato, right? Nobody says tomato though. Oh, some people do. Right? Some
I've
people
never heard somebody say tomato.
tomato. Wouldn't it be in like so? If you're English or Scottish, you still say
true.
tomato,
Tomatoes. No,
Yeah,
I'm like Peppa Pig.
Peppa
I watch
Pig,
Peppa Pig all the time.
right? Tomato.
Tomatoes.
Yeah. See, some people do say tomato. They don't live in the United States. Oh, I mean, I guess they could. There's plenty of immigration in the United States over the years. Chris is great, Aaron. It's going to really depend on whether his availability. I know that Okatron 5000 has taken on a lot of projects. There's a lot of English dub going on right now in the world of anime.
I just have a good relationship with Patrick. I think that's why I would prefer Patrick, just because.
Oh, I love working with people that we love
I
working
love
with. Yeah.
Patrick so much, and he's such a good person.
Yeah.
and- yeah.
Yep.
I don't know Chris Sabat like Patrick. So
I definitely know Patrick better now. In the beginning, I knew Chris way better than I knew Patrick. Chris is one of those people. He'll literally stay until a convention's over. He will threaten missing his flight to make sure that fans got what they came for. That if somebody paid good money to see him, then he's one of the few. Bryce will do that too. Bryce almost missed his flight at SAC Anime, and I remember being there, and the person who was in charge of getting guests to the airport was like, but my last driver that I have, and I was like, hey, I have some people that's sad for me, but good for you, that are cutting out of here sooner than, once the convention's over, but certainly after your last. So I said, you can use me as your last chance backup if you have nobody that can take Bryce to the airport. But there are definitely, there's a lot of folks. The industry is, there's a lot of great people in the industry. On-screen actors, their faces plastered everywhere, and it's hard not to let that go to your head. But behind the scenes folks, dubbing, you're just an alternative language choice. You're not the original performer. It's not the original country. You're literally just adapting it to a foreign country. And so dub actors have really been traditionally some of the kindest, nicest, most humble people. And it's been a thrill to work with Todd and Jeremy and Brittany and David. Even when we had Todd's agent who ended up directing the first two audiobooks, she was great. It wasn't until she got so big in her field that putting out the audiobook in any sort of reasonable time frame just became undoable for Melissa. She was like such a name in audiobooks that she was like, the project was going to take forever. And so we brought in Jason, who teaches sound design at North Carolina School for the Arts. And Jason was spectacular. Like, man, the pickups that guy saved us.
oh my goodness.
He would control F.
Because his big thing is, Melissa's directing and all that, but he's sound manipulation.
Yeah.
So he even added effects to voices if they were talking on the phone.
Yeah.
He really
Yeah.
wanted to do soundscape, and we're like, we really want to do. We just don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Or budget.
Yeah.
So-
Hopefully, well, he was going to throw that in just to kind of show
we
off.
were just out of time, but he's like, I know for a fact that most of the thunderstorm effects that are used in the industry were recorded by him in North Carolina, which is pretty cool. North Carolina does have pretty awesome thunderstorms. So, but yeah, Jason's known for that. He's written a book on sound design, so we're very fortunate to work with him.
Yeah. Yeah. And with any luck, he'll have the next project on his plate sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Todd said it was realistic to have the 4th audiobook out by Christmas. So that is our goal. I really need to sit down and look at the calendar. Jeremy will be the biggest challenge. Todd has his own now almost everybody has their own recording studio. I just know that on the West Coast, there's so much video game work and Netflix work, whereas in Texas, it's really Sentai and Funimation with some commercial and a lot of training manuals. A lot of Texas-based folks, because Texas is an oil and gas state, and there's lots of OSHA and certifications and safety protocols. There's a lot of training videos that voice actors end up doing if you're in the Texas market. I always chuckle when someone's like, "Oh, how did you feel to get this job?" And the real answer is, I was happy that someone was going to write a paycheck. That's what work is work for actors. So that's just a little inside FYI. Brianna, oh for sure, Nick. Jackie, man, I need to loop Jackie in on. We're going to open up a restaurant this year, and Jackie Lastra is literally the inspiration for Jackie Fried Chicken. We're definitely going to name just the original recipe fried chicken on the menu Jackie Fried Chicken, because it's literally thanks to Jackie Lastra that I know how to cook fried chicken at all, and now we're doing crazy weird things with fried chicken. So, and then Brianna Knickerbocker will be back too. I have some other emails I have to get to before I get to Brianna's. Angela, welcome in. Michelle, welcome in. All right. So was anyone else on the chopping block? You said everybody is a potential dead person in Colorworld, and that nobody's safe, and that how periodically did you evaluate characters in, like, did you know how many people that they were going to be successful with? Like they start with this list of names and they're trying to.
Well, of course, it's all dependent on how long it takes them to do the process. In some cases, fixing somebody, is like 8 hours. With Gabe, I think it was like 3 days. It took them like 3 days of session, 12-hour sessions to like work on him and fix his life force. So, how many can they fit in before Wendy's going to die is the question. And they had to sort of strong arm Carl into getting the names of people who needed to be fixed. And then they had to go around and convince those people to fix them. So it was really just a matter of how much time. And Wendy was just dedicated to trying to help as many people as she could before she was inevitably going to die.
So Wendy had already resigned herself that she's the sacrificial lamb. She's
yeah. I mean, she's like, obviously she was willing to do it. Although it's interesting because in like a later after they fix some people, and she's still really struggling with like Gabe and Kaylin and Ezra really just being a drain on her. She's an empath, right? So she's having to like suffer through their like grieving process. She realizes that her real problem is that she's angry because she's not ready to die and she's not sure. She tells Robert, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to die. How do I die? How do I do this? And Robert basically says, just don't worry about that right now.
Is it because Robert knows?
Well, so Robert has a sense that Wendy's not supposed to die or that she's not going to die, but he has no idea how that's going to happen. And you get a sense of that because there's a point which he seems really confused after she tells him like, hey, this is what I've discovered. I'm the last person and I'm going to have to die. What do I do? I haven't even told Gabriel yet. He's going to be so upset.
She's like,
and Robert's like, wait, are you sure about this?
Could you go back and check the Oracle?
I think this is, so you can tell like he isn't really sure he's like, I don't think when he's going to die, the future doesn't say that she's going to die, but he can't tell her that, right? Because he doesn't need to ruin the future. And so he's just kind of like,
oof.
Just
how does she not pick that up?
Man, if I knew like the page numbers, I could like read the scene, but it's basically, Robert looks confused for a minute and then says blah, blah, blah. So, it's a very subtle thing where he lets on that he does hear.
Okay.
He's like you're just going to start.
I mean, I was going to test my ability while you were talking to see if I could find that. Aaron, welcome in. Angela, welcome in. We are talking book 3 in the Colorworld book series. This is Lumaworld. I would show you the cover, but Rachel's looking through it for a scene.
Okay, here we go.
See?
I turn to Robert, my eyes filling with tears. We have no way to fix my strands, I say blearily. Because when we fix a life force, I'm almost positive that the person will lose their ability. And we need my sight for Kaylin to be able to see and fix strands. I don't even know if we can save Kaylin. I don't know at what point she'll lose her ability during the strand reinsertion. Robert is stunned and confused, looking at the floor, trying to direct his thoughts. You must be mistaken, he whispers. Uncle Moby, I plead through my tears. What do I say to them?
So she doesn't hear him with
Well,
her
she's
hearing.
so upset, right?
Oh man.
And it's clear his comment could mean anything from like, I didn't want this to happen. Plus, at this point in this book, we do not know even an ounce of.
We don't know what Robert's capable
We
of.
know a lot more that he's capable of, but we have no clue how much Robert is behind everything until later books. So, so far she's got a kind of like rudimentary idea of how Robert's ability works, but she really doesn't have a clue.
She don't know nothing.
Yeah, so when he says you must be mistaken, she's seeing that as like he's
You can't
surprised
possibly.
too, he's surprised that
I
he
don't
didn't
know.
want this to happen. So.
Maybe we just, as a reader, know too much about Robert at this point. But
Well, you didn't when you read this book. If you haven't gotten to later books, you don't know. So
I don't know, man.
because at this point, all we know is Robert has a goal and he sees a place in order to accomplish that goal. That's it. Okay, that's pretty straightforward.
I guess.
But we find out later that it's not. Yeah.
Well,
When used to its full capacity, when Robert really hones what he's able to do, he's able to see a lot more than that.
well,
It's just that when he presents this to people, it's very hard for him to like articulate in a way that people will understand.
well, the other thing that if we could have been aware of is, he would have had to never have had a goal anywhere near this time period or with a bunch of these people involved. Otherwise, he would have already seen this.
Oh,
Meaning, like, he's how old in Lumaworld? 50?
58.
58? So, like, that means for 58 years, he couldn't have had any goals that had to do, or he would have already.
Well, that's why he says you must be mistaken. Wendy doesn't realize that's why he's saying it. But he's saying it literally because in the future, he understands Wendy's around. And so he doesn't know, right? Because when she presents, here's the logic, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
He's like,
man.
that makes total sense. Of course you're going to die. But wait, you're not supposed to die.
I would have been like, immediately, I would have been like, wait, what? What did you just say, Robert? Because, I don't know. She has superhuman hearing.
She doesn't get.
All right.
what he's
I'm going to
capable
run
of
and
either.
get a really quick grab.
What are you grabbing?
The drink off my desk.
Oh. Yeah. So.
Okay. So, did you love more of Robert in this? I know Robert's one of your favorite characters.
Oh yeah. I mean, let's see if I can find it really quick. There's a fun scene in here.
Welcome in, Thrifty Mama.
Fun being
Welcome in,
relevant, of
Marta.
course.
Oh, you're like, this is a fun scene. People are dying.
Yeah, where she goes to talk to Robert. Hold on.
So for those that are new, we are talking Colorworld Book 3, which is Lumaworld. We have all the books in the catalog today with some bookmarks. Any purchase of a book is going to come with a bookmark, and we can obviously show many more. We have like 1,100 different bookmarks. But we're going through each week talking about the books in the Colorworld series because the newest book is careening towards us. In fact, it's already February now, so in 13 days, which means I need to start pulling addresses to figure out when Soraya, the new book in the Colorworld book series, is going to get shipped, so that everybody that pre-orders it right now on the colorworldbooks.com website, colorworldbooks.com, so that everybody who orders it on the website gets it in their hands. colorworldbooks.com. All right, so that anybody who grabs that book can have it in their hand on release day, February 14th, Valentine's Day. Oh, man. How do I? Okay, there we go.
Okay, so scene before they've figured out how to fix people. Basically, Mike comes in and goads Wendy and tells her she's a terrible person. And he's like, why aren't you using Robert? Robert should be able to help you with this problem. Like, why aren't you talking to him? Blah, 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 blah. And so Wendy's like, fine, blah, blah. So she goes and she talks to Robert. And she walks into his office.
Hold on. Okay, go for it.
All right, she walks into his office. And Robert's like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, I need to whine about my life, right? She's like, and I'm so mad at you because you're hiding all the time. I've missed you. Nobody knows how to give me good advice. Maris just reads the Bible to me or prays. I don't know what to do. I'm completely stuck and now I'm out of time. And Robert says, what kind of advice are you looking for? And she's like, Uncle Moby wisdom, the kind that makes me think in a different direction, the kind that gets me out of my rut. And an amused smile curves his mouth. What am I, a wisdom bending machine?
That's what it sounded like.
I wrinkle my nose and purse my lips. Pretty much. He crosses a leg over a knee and sits back in his chair. I don't deal in life forces, Wendy. What advice could I possibly give you about it? And she says, I think for a moment, I don't know, but you don't think I should do what Grave Gabriel wants, do you? It sounds risky, but again, life forces are not my area. Okay, and then, they have like an exchange, and she says, you aren't making any sense, Uncle Moby. She said, Mike said you were waiting on me to come see you, so here I am. I was waiting for you to come see me, yes, but it's clear you aren't ready to see me, so why are you here? I put my hands on either side of my face in frustration. You aren't making sense, Uncle Moby. I know, it's because you're here too soon. How about you come back when you're ready? And so she's like, stomps off, and she's like, what is he talking about? So then she ends up having this conversation with Gabriel, and she totally gets what Uncle Moby was getting at. So she goes back, like, same day.
I was going to say.
Robert looks amused when I come into his office again, this time with Gabriel trailing me. But his expression is subtle and knowing. Like he said, he's been waiting for me to ask him for something, and I know exactly what it is. So, like, just seeing Robert kind of, like, watch Wendy, like, struggle and, like, know what she needs, but know that she's not there in the right place mentally to receive the instruction that he has for her, that she's got to go through some other things before the advice he has is going to help her.
How does Robert get to be such a good parent? Just strikes me that, like, man, if only I could.
Well, foresight helps.
Oh,
foresight does help.
He's cheating a little.
He is cheating a little, but he has gone through some really hard things. I mean, he was married and had a child, and they both died. So
that's rough, buddy.
And he learned from that experience the danger of his ability. That it was essentially because he used it incorrectly that they died. It was his fault, essentially. And he thought that he could control things, that he could prevent them from dying. And because he tried so hard, and because he, Robert always has a rule that you don't mess with life and death. That's where he got that rule, was because of his, and that's why Wendy hesitates to get his help for so long, is because she knows that this happened to him, and she doesn't want to ask him to break his rule. So she doesn't ask him for advice on it because she wants to steer completely clear of it. But she doesn't realize is that there are all kinds of other things she could get help on, right? And she doesn't realize that until later. So.
How, I would imagine book 3 is really revelatory for you in terms of Robert, because your writing process, we talked about in the first couple of weeks, that you really know as much as the reader does, at least the first time you sit down to write. How, where is Robert already near and dear to your heart when you sit down to write Lumaworld? Do you fall in love with Robert as you write Lumaworld? Do you already know, are you excited by the end of Lumaworld to, show us more of Robert? Like, tell us how Robert.
He was really hard to write for a while, especially in the beginning. So the first half of Lumaworld, particularly when they finally connect again after, Wendy and Gabe and Kaylin and Ezra have run away, right? Because they thought Robert was a bad guy and that he was behind all of these files that were in his office. They found these incriminating files. And then in Lumaworld, Wendy's like, I'm going to see Robert. And everybody's like, you can't see Robert. He's a bad guy. And Wendy's like, nope, I've changed my mind. I know he's good. If we trust what we know about life forces, Robert's he's got the brightest life force I've ever seen. So we're either completely wrong or we're wrong about Robert. So she goes to see him, and he talks a lot about you know, how his behavior leading up to this point. And it was really hard to write, like, telling her enough but not too much, but then also not making him a liar, right? So he's telling her about this history of like his brother and his brother Carl, and like how he had to deal with Carl, and we just aren't quite sure how much Robert knows that he's not saying, right? And Wendy has to be convinced that he's saying all he knows. But Robert never says everything he knows. He never does. Not until like the day he dies does he say, even on the day he dies, does he say everything that he knows. And you really only find out what Robert knows, you know, through later books after he's dead. So it was really hard for me to figure out how can Robert tell Wendy what he knows without perjuring himself later on, because I knew that Robert was important. I knew he was going to be really important.
Okay.
At the beginning of Lumaworld, but I didn't want to say something. I didn't want Robert to say so much and then have to like backtrack later, because like I said, I don't know what's going to happen. So if I say if Robert says something, gives some explanation, and it ends up being wrong, like now I've written myself into a corner. So I had to have Robert say as much as I could without saying too much, without revealing.
How did you know what was too much?
I didn't. I just had to. Wendy has to know exactly what she needs to know and nothing more.
Okay.
Like enough that Wendy's not going to be like, but what about this thing? You know, it had to be a satisfactory.
She had to be able to turn around and walk out.
Yeah, like let's get to work. You know.
Man, that's crazy.
So that I remember rewriting and editing that scene up until I hit publish on that.
Really?
Book. Yeah, it was so.
You're like,
I was so concerned.
Yeah.
I was so worried that I was going to write something in Robert's language
that you couldn't get out of.
Yes, that I couldn't get out later, and I knew he was going to be a vital.
Fantastic.
So.
Well, kudos to you for threading the needle.
Yeah.
That's have you ever had that experience since or before?
Oh, every book since then now is like that. That's why they take so long. I mean, these are like tiny compared to like and I'm still only putting out one a year. Like the reason it takes so long is because
you have to be so careful.
So many things, and then also a future that I'm moving toward, but I don't necessarily know exactly what's going to happen. And I have all of these characters that are coming into play in the final story, and I'm like, one of them can't step out of line, man. They gotta like be cohesive. It has to make sense, and it also has to jive with everything we know so far. So it's been just as difficult. I would say book 3 is when I went back to rewrite, because I knew it wasn't going to be the last book, was when things started getting hard. But Dreamworld was relatively easy, for reasons that you'll find out when we talk about Dreamworld.
Oh man,
Dreamworld was one of the easiest ones, despite how huge it is.
So much fun. I loved how many people came to you and thought that you screwed the pooch when you submitted Dreamworld.
Oh,
so funny.
Tell that story. Then.
So funny. Okay. Welcome in, Herman. Welcome in, Kendra. How's everybody doing tonight? We are talking Lumaworld Book 3 in the Colorworld book series. We are careening towards a future in which this book will be released on Valentine's Day. We're now 13 days away from the book release, and so we decided to really go in depth for the first time ever in the history of Colorworld and talk characters and spoilers and have Rachel answer questions, whether writing in general or Colorworld in specific. And so we're doing this Book Talk Tuesday segment to give Rachel a chance to really talk about the writing process. And so we sadly did not record the first Book Talk Tuesday because I couldn't find where the laptop was. I have since found where the laptop was and bought a tripod so that we can look in the same direction and talk to both cameras at the same time. So our production quality has gone up since we started this. All right. Favorite scene, or did you already reveal your favorite scene?
I told my favorite one.
Oh, while I was gone?
No, it's the one where Wendy asked Gabe why he loves her.
Yep.
Why did
Because
he pick her? Why did he
she picked him.
want her?
That's all it took, man. I tried to marry like 20 some girls, and Rachel was the first one that was like, hey, this is supposed to happen. So clean up all the other relationships you got. God has told me I'm the only woman for you. Chop, chop. Okay. I asked the question. You should listen to the answer. And that was 20 years ago that Rachel told me to marry her. So, yeah, 20 years and 6 kids. A world of adventure.
Oh, new
world. Yeah, it's been insane. Fantastic. In an RV across the country. It's been crazy. It's been interesting to see what comes first, our life or Colorworld. Do you still feel like, I know at one point you were like, we need a few more things to happen to us so that I can move to the, how close are you? So you've got 2 more volumes of book 6 and then the final countdown.
I have no idea what that book is going to be.
Oh, really?
To find out.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, I guess it's going to be Wendy's point of view, but what am I going to do differently? Like, every book I've done something
differently
from previous books. So,
well, you get to jump back into Wendy for volume 6 of book 6.
Yeah. But that one it's going to be tough because I have to basically weave in everybody else's story from the previous volumes. They kind of have to like converge.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be the goal of that book. So I already know, but I have to do it and also be interesting, right? Because nobody wants to read what they've already read. So hopefully I can make the alternative point of view.
Now, have you sat down to go through like, okay, here's everywhere Wendy appears in Ezra. Here's everywhere that Wendy appears in Charlotte. Here's everywhere that Wendy appears in Xavier. Here's everywhere that, have you gone through and like assembled?
Oh, I have a timeline. Yeah, like I have a timeline in which they're color coded for each of the volume characters to know like what day did they do this thing.
Yeah.
Right? So that way they don't mess with each other.
Well, I just mean in terms of like Wendy won't know, when Xavier's trouncing around in eastern North Carolina, like Wendy will have no idea that.
Yeah, her encounter with Xavier is at the end of his book.
Right.
And same thing with Soraya, same thing with Charlotte, and same thing with Ezra. So it all happens kind of at the same time. But there are some really cool scenes in there that I really, particularly in Ezra, that I know that there's going to be a lot more overlap with the Ezra book.
Okay.
So, I don't know what's going to happen in book 7, but I'm going to do something crazy.
But you
kill somebody, maybe.
Someone gonna get killed. Somebody gonna get killed.
I'm going to kill somebody and make everybody mad at me.
Oh man, that sounds terrible. Oh man, so the big 4 are still on the table? I mean, except Wendy, because no Divergent. So Gabe, Ezra, and Kaylin, they're still they're not untouchable, huh?
No, not even. Not a one.
Oh, man. That's so crazy. Do you just go to sleep at night like they're all in my hands?
Well, no, I think about killing one, and then I think of the implications of that, and then I'm like,
Ugh. No one's old enough to die, not satisfactorily.
Yeah,
they're all so young.
Especially Kaylin and Ezra.
Woo.
Ezra's too powerful, though. That's kind of a thing, though. I'm like,
I
always kill, like, with Robert. It's like, this guy's really powerful. He might make things too easy, often.
You gotta get rid of.
Yeah,
he can move the plot along
Ezra,
too.
you find out, is quite powerful. He didn't even know that he was. So, he might be.
Oh no! No!
I don't want to though. He's my comic relief.
I know, right? Who's gonna be funny if Ezra's dead?
Oh man.
Oh man.
Judy and Charlotte.
Yes, I would love to see more Judy. That'd be great. I want to see her come back. We're gonna have. I mean, if everybody agrees, we'll have Megan Hollingshead and Tara Sands do Judy
Charlotte.
and Charlotte for that book. I'm actually excited to get. I think all the time about just calling Todd up and be like, just start recording Ezra, because he really uses a voice very similar to Natsu for Ezra, and Ezra's so funny that I'm excited to get to that audiobook in particular. I think of all the audiobooks, that one will really it'll make a lot of people happy. I think that may be where the audiobooks, like, people are like, you got to listen to this thing, is when we just give Ezra the mic and you just listen to Ezra for hours and hours. Plus, that book itself it's really spectacular. Tiffany, welcome in. We're talking, there's a lot of books around here. We're talking Lumaworld, which is book 3 in the Colorworld series. I don't know why I didn't tap the. I really should just put the book 1 in case anybody. There we go. That should have been the featured item like 10 years ago. All right. Last things, parting things. I gotta say, when did you? So Kaylin, we've known Kaylin can move things since book 1, right? What was that moment like when you decide that Kaylin's ability is what's needed to, like, at what point did you put all the pieces together?
Oh my gosh, the exact same time as
Oh, really?
I was like, oh my gosh, Kaylin can move things! Right? Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I didn't even know the implications, right? I just knew at that moment, because they're just kind of messing around, and they're in the color world, and Wendy all of a sudden like sits up and she's like, Kaylin, can you move life forces? And that was like literally me. I was asking, Kaylin, can you move life forces?
Hey, Kaylin, I'm gonna need to know this for the book. Are you able to do this?
Like, it was literally a aha moment.
That's
the
cool.
Same as Wendy in that exact moment. It was super fun to write that. Of course, then at that point I had no idea. Okay, so if Kaylin can move strands, right? So then Gabe can count them. Okay. Oh my gosh, Wendy. So I literally realized Wendy was going to die. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe it's not Kaylin. But then I was like, no, it literally is. Kaylin's the linchpin here. So I got to figure this thing out. That's why I said I thought Wendy was going to die. It seemed like.
You were like, I have to
the
save
signs
Wendy.
all pointed to Wendy dying. And so then I had to figure out
how to save her.
How am I going to save Wendy?
So at what point do you know that, like, I always found it weird that no one was like, oh, golden ratio. Like, it seems to me that Ezra mentions the golden ratio so early on, maybe even in something completely unrelated.
Yes. So, well, they knew early on that the problem was the ratio, that there were strands. Like, that was the theory based on what Ezra was observing with the strands. If there was something, because he literally says, it's like your life force got put in a blender. Like, they knew that they looked different. That people who had manipulation done, they looked different. And so she knew, everybody knew that we need to get it back looking the way it looked before. And Ezra knew, like, it's supposed to look like the golden ratio. But you're talking about something like billions of strands.
Sure, but don't we already know that Ezra's ability to do math is not natural?
Oh, well, it's kind of one of those things that you take for granted, right? Someone who's really good. I mean, you wouldn't say Einstein. Does Einstein have a supernatural power?
Well, sure,
Like,
but it's just a math. Like, the golden ratio is a ratio because we know the math.
Yeah, but he sees the patterns. So what he sees is like a pattern, and he has enough experience with math to recognize it and label it as the golden ratio. But if he's seen enough life forces through the color world, he's like, the pattern's the same, right?
Right.
So he's able to recognize if the pattern is even minutely off. So that's what he sees when he looks. But, they have no way of manipulating them, was the problem. They're like, I know this needs to look like this, but how do we get it to look like it's supposed to look? Because, when she's doing hypnosis, like, you're moving strands around, but you're not controlling them. You're not doing anything precise. It's sort of like,
oh, you're just like
ripping.
Right.
That's how this ended up in the first place.
Right.
So if they start ripping things around, like they're just going to end up worse than they were before. So that's why the Kaylin epiphany was so
Such
huge,
a big deal.
because now we have a way to actually manipulate individual strands.
Did at that point, like Gabe counting? Did we already? Like, was Kaylin the last piece? Did we already know?
No. Well, yes, because no, it wasn't, because Kaylin could move the strands, but even though she could move the strands, she couldn't see the strands well enough. Like they're all kind of in this like, bundle, right?
Right.
And you can't really see individual strands. Like what exactly is out of place? We know she can manipulate them, right? But how does she, in this whole massive yarn,
Right.
right? How do you find the end, the strand end? That was their going theory, was like, are there ends that have been pulled out? And they're like looking around. Oh, I saw an end. I saw a strand end, right? Piece, right? It needs to go back where it was. Where does it go? We don't know. It's supposed to go in the chest, it's supposed to go in the head, it's supposed to go in the skin. And it wasn't until the water epiphany that it all came together, right? So Kaylin, they gave them a huge piece of like, we can do this, but now we need an additional medium to be able to like spread the strands out and be able to manipulate them individually. And so that was where Robert came in, seeing the vision of the pool. So.
I remember feeling like, how come you all can't see that Ezra and Gabe like have this solved? It seemed very like, well, you just do whatever, and then Ezra can check.
And that's exactly what Gabe wanted to do, and that's what Wendy was so opposed to. They really came to a head on that, and that's where the whole thing where Mike says, Robert says he's been waiting to talk to you, and you haven't done anything. And so Wendy goes to see Robert. She's like, "What are you talking about?" And Robert's like, "You're not ready to see me." She's like, "Fine." So then she goes and talks to Gabe, and they're kind of at odds during this time because he's basically saying, I'm going to be a guinea pig. And
they
she's
both
like, heck you are. You are not being a guinea pig. And he's like, well, what else are we going to do? And so he kind of just gives her the cold shoulder.
I'm going to let you
well,
figure
fine.
this out.
You don't want to use me as a guinea pig. You figure it out. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And so kind of like weeks go by and Mike's like, what are you doing with your life? And
that's a lot of time.
She's kind of just waiting to like figure it out. Right. As opposed to like, Gabe.
It's not how science works. Yeah, it's how science works.
Well, he wants to jump in and just like go willy-nilly.
Do it.
And she wants to just let the universe decide. But somewhere the solution is in the middle of those two things.
It's gotta act.
Which is how it works in marriage.
You gotta act.
There's usually a solution in the middle.
After action.
After yelling and screaming at each other.
And also acting.
So they have a pretty big fight.
As you should.
Where he's like he's basically trying to manipulate her into doing it his way. And she recognizes that and just gets absolutely livid because she's lived this life before. Hello, Teleworld. So
it's tough to let the process work out. I gotta tell you.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me, you're like, "Oh, I don't understand why they don't just." And I'm like, "Of course you wouldn't.
Of course
you wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't understand." Are we about to die? Is the phone?
We're probably about to lose. We're just gonna go. I know we already hit our below 10% battery, but we've got 4 minutes left, and so I'm just taking the gamble. I'm rolling dice. Then we're gonna make it our last 4 minutes, and then we're under that 12% on the laptop's gonna last forever. Welcome in, Coin Ring Maker and Carolina Tiffany. Welcome in. Yeah, Carolina K. Are you a Kelly? That'd be funny. Rachel was born in North Carolina and is a Kelly, obviously, by the name on the book.
Not originally.
Well, not originally a Kelly, but originally from North Carolina.
Yes.
Yes. Is Caroline named Caroline because of anything to do with Carolina?
No.
Okay, that's good.
There's Carolyn. At some point, she started saying Caroline. I don't really know how that happened. All my years growing up, we called her Carolyn. So I don't know why all of a sudden she became Caroline.
I just call people what they want to be called. And she introduces herself as Caroline, so I call it.
I think because she used to get a hard time about the spelling, because the spelling is like Caroline. Carolyn is usually like Lyn. But Caroline is
she's
Linde.
like,
so people, I guess she got tired of people.
She's like, Mom, you phonetically misspelled my name.
Yeah, she did phonetically misspell. I should ask my mom one day.
You
Oh,
should.
thank you.
Yes. And can you ask why your sister rebranded herself without? Oh man. LJP. Welcome in, LJP. All right. Last 3 minutes. If anyone has questions, let us know. The next week is Shadow World, which is book 4. This
The
is
Dark World.
Is
Or
that
was it somebody
I know
said Dark World?
that's what
We don't have one here.
Fiore was
Do we
said.
have one here? I don't think there
It
is.
should be in the box. Most of the books are in the box, although that looks like a lot of Xavier and a lot of Colorworld.
Yeah, it looked like.
Did we sell Shadow? Oh, I think 3J bought Shadow World.
I did.
Is that the
Uh,
only
There should be
one?
more because
There should be more.
There's none up here. I can go in the.
All right, well, we're definitely going to find a copy of Shadow World before next week, at least so I can hold it up 14 times like I've done today with Lumaworld.
15.
There you go. So lots of spoilers. We're getting in talking about the writing process. I've discovered lots of things because we've been grinding so hard for 8 years now that I really have not had the opportunity to sit down and just ask Rachel about all these things. So just like I did when I watched the Harry Potter movies and asked Rachel,
All through the movie. All through the movie. Does this really happen this way? Did they really? Did they not know? Did they?
I'm like, Rachel, tell me about this part. Tell me about this part. My daughter got offended because she considers herself to be the Harry Potter expert that I was asking. So I was like, I'll ask you. And then I asked her like one question. She was like, eh. And then from the back, I hear Rachel like, if you need help with this one, I could help you out, So Rachel's
And I've only read the books one time.
Really?
Seen the movies one time.
Have you really?
So, yeah.
What-
It, I guess.
What made
Well, Bea hasn't read the books. That's the problem.
Oh, so she's read all the lore and the extra
Mhm.
stuff and probably Wikipedia, but never actually read the books.
Yeah.
Interesting. Don't we own all the books?
Yeah, we can't find them though.
What?
We don't know what she says. She's looked under the stairs, but we keep our books in the closet under the stairs. And I think the Harry Potter books are there too, because that's where we keep Harry Potter.
Oh, but yeah.
But I think they're down there. She just, like a child, doesn't know how to look for things.
Oh, all right. So you're saying at some point I need to go under the stairs and get out.
Should you feel motivated?
Should I feel motivated? All right. Well, I know how much Bea loves that universe, and I love it too. It's great. It's just going to be the second greatest story ever told by the time we're done with Colorworld. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Just imagine I'm holding up here. I can put the cover as the featured. There we go. That's what Shadow World looks like. That's the one that we're going to. There definitely will be stuff blowing up in book 4. I remember and that was the thing you did to top stuff off was, man. Okay, have we 1, 2, 3? Trying to think if people have died in 1, 2, 3.
Louise dies.
Wow, definitely spoiler there. And then obviously the people.
Sam dies.
Oh, Sam,
We never talked about that.
that's rough, buddy.
We didn't talk about
I
Sam.
know. But
His big Iron Badass shirt, remember, in his beard.
I do. I will never forget. Long live. That was really nice of Rachel to write a brand that we created. Rachel wrote into. She found a nice organic place to put it in Teleworld, which is really cool. The book 4 is going to wreck a lot of people. Remember Novin? There's that post on Instagram where Novin's just face down on the ground when he read book 4. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that now.
So it's definitely
One of my copy editors, she said she threw the book across the room.
what? What? Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. So it definitely hurt and disturbed a lot of people. What's coming in book 4? Be sure to catch up if you want. You can Audible. If you have Audible subscription credits, you can go and you have time between now and next Book Talk Tuesday to listen to the first 3
They're so
audiobooks.
They're so
That's why I
good.
do
You
Lumaworld.
should go do that. You should go do that. It's really good. The audiobooks are fantastic.
Yeah,
They are not audiobooks. They're performances.
correct.
They're amazing.
Yeah, well, when I set out to do it, I thought like how silly. I just imagined somebody reading, like a woman reading guys'
can do
voices,
that.
and a guy, and I just thought that just I don't want. So at a minimum, I set out to have 2 actors, and then really as soon as we heard the first finished copy of Colorworld, I instantly said, like, I feel like Kayla needs her own character. I instantly felt like, and so I approached Brittany Karbowski about it, and she was perfectly happy to get in there. I remember I thought Brittany was joking, just like I thought Todd was blowing me off. I thought Brittany was blowing me off. Yeah, sure, I'll do this thing. Get out of my face. And then, like, legitimately was like, when are we going to do this thing? And so we got her in there, and she was. Is what was great about it is that, Rachel felt like for the first time that she got Kaylin, the character.
Yeah, from Brittany's performance, it was like I finally liked her. I haven't really liked Kaylin. I mean, I like her, but I don't like. Her backstory makes her just kind of a. Yeah.
It's
She got some issues.
some more Azula and less
Yeah.
Katara.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's a doormat, and I'm uncomfortable with doormats. So she knows how to be used, and it makes her not the most fun person to be around, I think. So,
well,
she was used growing up, and then she uses that ability to be used.
I was gonna
later
say,
on.
yeah. Then she
So-
does the using.
And then after that, she really kind of like decides she takes her newfound confidence in the wrong direction. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to go down that road when we get down there. A lot of people are very early on wanted Kaylin's story to be told. We almost told it with Chelsea. Chelsea, if you're out there and you ever see this video, come back. We lost touch with one of the artists. In fact, I went to her Twitter and it literally says no longer here. Like, that's what she edited her description to be. I am no longer here. And so I don't know how to find her, and I'm sad. She's a very cool person. We found a lot of really neat, interesting people along the way to tell the story, and that's where the illustrated editions came from, as artists that have worked with us over the years. We need to put out Eric's illustrated edition.
Eric, finish the illustrations.
Is he not done?
No, that's the problem. That's why it's not out yet.
That's definitely a problem.
We're gonna need those illustrations, Eric.
All right.
Yeah, some of them are really cool, and in fact, some of them are actually used in some of the exclusive bookmarks that are already out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a neat little nugget.
Yeah. It's been neat. It's taken a lot of people. I remember we started the audiobook 2 times, and it was a total failure 2 times, spent money 2 times, and then Todd Habercorn was like, 3rd time is the charm, my friend. You will not fail. I will not fail. We will not fail. And he did it. It was a lot. To be honest, book 1, the audiobook, was almost all Todd Habercorn. Getting it done with Jeremy, getting it done with Melissa, getting it done. And it wasn't until Todd got really busy and slammed, and we started bringing in more people that were not LA based, that it ended up, becoming something where I jumped in and started participating, not just as the executive producer, but actually a producer and then later director. So give him a shot. If you got credits on Audible, if you want to read, if you're a reader and you just love the process of reading, if you have Amazon Prime, you can read the books for free on your Amazon Prime account.
The lending library.
Yep. Explain the lending library.
Lending library is that it's like a library. You borrow a book and you get a certain amount of time to, you
can
have
only
it
borrow
as long as you want. You can only borrow like 1 book at a time.
Right.
And then once you finish that, we can borrow another book. So
Just like a library.
Yeah.
So you can read the books for free on your Kindle device with the Amazon Prime lending library. Is it just the first 3 books that are in there?
No, I think they're all in there.
For sure, the
haven't
first
been-
3 books.
I have to check. I'll check.
For sure, the first 3 books. For sure, the first 3 books are on Nook. We do need to go back and fill in some holes and put other. I know that was a complaint at one point that not all the books were on Nook. I think we just
Untitled.
lost. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. This phone will get plugged in at some point, and I'll officially end the stream on Pop Shop. But we hope you've enjoyed a really, diving in and taking a look at. Ooh, I was gonna be clever and like put it on the opposite side of the book one. See?
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I like that.
Cemetery. I love Death the Kid. Thanks everybody for joining us for Book Talk Tuesday with Lumaworld. We will see you next week for Shadow World, 5 p.m. Central. Thanks for joining us. Like we said, you can read the books in the lending library, listen to the audiobooks with your Audible credit, and then Valentine's Day, we will see you for the next book in the Colorworld series, Soraya. We'll see you somewhere in America. Conventions start not this week, but next week for us. So if you're down at WeebCon, wave to Autumn as she works with all the guests. Say hello to Autumn, and then we'll see you at Anime Milwaukee and Ohoyacon on the Colorworld Book Tour. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you somewhere in America soon.